Okay, let's jump right in. In this explainer, we're going to discover how modern science, and specifically functional MRIs, are finally proving what a 5,000-year-old practice actually does to our neurobiology. You know, for millennia, yoga was passed down mostly as a spiritual and philosophical tradition. But today, well, we're stripping away the mysticism and looking straight at the hard empirical data. We are going to explore the exact, literal mechanisms of how intentional movement, breath, and sound physically alter the architecture of your brain and the chemistry of your body.
So, think about this for a second. It bridges a pretty fascinating gap between ancient roots and today's hard data. How exactly does a 5,000-year-old practice look when you put it inside an MRI machine? The answer is honestly nothing short of incredible, because we now have the technology to literally watch the human nervous system respond, adapt, and heal in real time. Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with Section 1, the biology of stress, then move into rewiring your brain, explore controlling the nervous system, break down the power of breath, and finally wrap up with healing through sound.
Right, Section 1, the biology of stress, the modern epidemic. Chronic stress is an absolutely massive global issue right now. According to the World Health Organization, anxiety disorders are currently affecting over 300 million people worldwide. I mean, our modern, coffee-fueled, super fast-paced world keeps us locked in a state of high alert. And to figure out how to fix that, we first have to understand what it's actually doing to our biology.
At the very center of this stress epidemic is an overworked HPA axis. Think of this as your body's central alarm system. When you're constantly stressed out, this system basically gets stuck in the on position, keeping your body completely flooded with cortisol, your primary stress hormone. This locks you in a damaging, long-term survival mode. And all that heightened cortisol, it contributes to mood disorders, cognitive impairment, and physical illness. You're essentially revving your engine in the red zone all day, every single day.
Moving on to Section 2, rewiring your brain, the neuroscience of yoga. This is where it gets really good, because yoga serves as the ultimate biological antidote to this modern stress epidemic. It isn't just about feeling kind of relaxed in the moment. It's about fundamentally, physically changing the hardware of your mind.
The absolute secret sauce here lies in neuroplasticity. Thanks to this incredible biological feature, our brains are not fixed. They have the capacity to reorganize and adapt by forming brand new neural connections and even altering their own physical structure. Through regular yoga practice, you are literally renovating the architecture of your brain. You're building new neural pathways that make you way more resilient to the everyday stresses of life.
And the physical proof of this is staggering. Functional MRI scans actually show us that yoga physically shrinks the amygdala. That's your brain's hyperactive fear and stress center. At the exact same time, it bulks up the gray matter in the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus. So, to put that in perspective, the areas responsible for logical decision-making, emotional regulation, and memory literally get thicker and stronger, while your fear center quiets down. It even strengthens the anterior cingulate cortex, giving you much better control over your attention.
But beyond just the physical structure, there's a profound chemical shift happening too. Yoga naturally boosts your brain's calm-down chemicals. Take GABA, for instance, gamma-aminobutyric acid. It basically acts as the brakes on an overactive mind, and low levels of it are heavily linked to anxiety and depression. Well, studies using magnetic resonance spectroscopy show that yoga practitioners have significantly increased GABA concentrations. Add in a boost of serotonin for mood, dopamine for motivation, and BDNF, which actually supports new neural growth, and you've got yourself an incredibly powerful all-natural antidepressant and neuroprotectant.
Okay, Section 3, controlling the nervous system, the vagus connection. So now we're zooming out from the internal structure of the brain and looking at the body, specifically exploring the autonomic nervous system and a really fascinating pathway known as the vagus nerve.
To understand how the body responds to all this, we really have to look at two totally opposing states. Stress forces us into sympathetic overdrive. That's your fight or flight response, characterized by shallow breathing, spiked cortisol, and a racing heart. Yoga, on the other hand, artificially stimulates the parasympathetic system. That's your rest and digest mode. By utilizing specific postures and really slow, diaphragmatic breathing, you are manually flipping the biological switch from panic straight over to peace. And a major indicator of this is heart rate variability, or HRV. A higher HRV means you have a higher vagal tone, which is basically the vagus nerve's ability to regulate your heart rate based entirely on your breath. So what does this mean for you?
Higher vagal tone means you are highly resilient. It means you can rapidly bounce back from a stressful event right back to a baseline state of calm. You don't just stay stuck in that stress loop. Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, the power of breath, your physiological remote control. Let's get to the practical application of all this science. How do breathing techniques, traditionally known as pranayama, act as a literal manual override for your biology?
20. That is the exact number of minutes of daily diaphragmatic breathing or deep belly breathing it takes to significantly reduce cortisol levels in adults who are experiencing high stress. Just 20 minutes. That's all it takes to chemically alter your body's stress profile and actively signal safety to your brain.
And remarkably, 5 is the magic number for peak efficiency, taking exactly 5 coherent breaths per minute, which breaks down to roughly a 6-second inhale and a 6-second exhale, perfectly synchronizes and completely resets your autonomic nervous system. So, let's talk about a highly researched technique you can literally use right now, box breathing. This isn't just an old yogic tradition, guys. It is a clinical and military technique. Navy SEALs actually use this to quickly stabilize their nervous systems during acute panic or intense combat stress. You just inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold out for 4. By equalizing the breath and those holds, you stabilize your heart rate variability and build profound mental resilience. Now, the mechanics behind why this works are absolutely fascinating. Every single time you inhale, your heart speeds up slightly. That is a mild sympathetic activation. But every time you exhale, your heart slows down. That's parasympathetic activation. The real biological secret here is that holding your breath out right after a long exhale actively forces parasympathetic relaxation and directly stimulates that vagus nerve we talked about. So if we really want to hack the system to maximize our calm, we use a targeted vagal tone breathing ratio. By intentionally stretching the exhale so it's longer than the inhale, say inhaling for 6 seconds, exhaling for 8, and holding the breath out for 4, you are intensely stimulating the vagus nerve. And if you practice this ratio over time, you actually train your body's baseline resilience, permanently increasing your long-term vagal tone. Finally, let's look at Section 5, Healing Through Sound, Brahmari and OM. I know, we are stepping into something that might sound a little mystical at first, but it is deeply, deeply grounded in human biology. We're going to look at how the neurobiology of sound and vibration acts directly on our very survival instincts. Practicing sound, like humming or chanting, literally moves our attention through 4 distinct stages. You start off just listening to a sound externally. Then as you hum along, your focus begins to shift inward. Eventually, the sound is completely internalized, vibrating right within your own mind. This entire progression acts as a biological tool to quiet compulsive, anxious thinking by literally forcing your mind to anchor to a single, continuous point of sensory input. What's wild here is the physical impact of chanting a sound like Om. Research shows it actually physically deactivates the limbic system. That's the ancient part of your brain responsible for basic, primal emotions like fear, anger, and hunger. The sound vibration travels right through the auricular branch of the vagus nerve, which is located in your ear and your larynx, and it literally switches off primal fear responses in the brain. It is a physiological, measurable discharge of stress. Here's a super practical technique that utilizes that exact science. It's called Brahmari, or bee breath. You just inhale deeply through your nose, keep your lips totally sealed, and exhale while making a long, continuous humming sound, like an mmm. Doing this accomplishes 2 things at once. You effortlessly lengthen your exhale, which lowers sympathetic arousal, and you create a mechanical vibration that soothes the vagus nerve in your inner ear and larynx. It drastically reduces mental chatter and is literally a game changer for calming an overactive mind right before you go to sleep. To tie this all together, Dr. Herbert Benson from Harvard identified 4 very simple elements that make all this work: a quiet environment, an object to dwell upon, like your breath or a sound, a passive attitude of just letting it happen, and a comfortable position. Together, these 4 things trigger what he famously called the innate relaxation response. It proves that decreasing your heart rate, lowering your metabolism, and returning your body to balance isn't magic. It's a natural, built-in mechanism. We really just need to know how to turn the key. Breathing is the bridge between the body and mind. This quote is profound, and it perfectly summarizes this whole explainer. Your breath is the exact physical intersection where ancient mindfulness and modern neurobiology finally meet. It's the one tool that allows your conscious mind to speak directly to your autonomic nervous system.
We'll end with this empowering thought today. You are not at the mercy of your stress hormones or a hyperactive fear center. You literally have the physiological tools to change your biology from the inside out. The science is completely clear. So, now that you hold the remote control to your own nervous system, how will you rewire your brain today? Take a deep breath and start practicing.